everyone. Welcome to today's show, where we share a candid discussion on family, the prison experience, and advocacy. Hi, Pastor Danielle.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, and thank you so much for coming. And I just wanted to give a little brief background of how we got introduced to each other. I met your brother Paul at one of the large department stores, I may say, Buck department
Mm,
stores, and he was doing an event to gain funds for the veterans. And as
Mm-hmm.
I told him about my work in the community, and I was telling him about the shares that some of the community members were telling me about their prison experience. And then he said, "You got to talk to my sister. You got to talk to my sister." And I said, "Oh, okay." So we finally, I think months later, we finally got together. And that's how I was introduced to you. So what I would
Mm-hmm.
like for you to do for our audience is give us a little bit background about you and then tell us about your son, Sergio.
Um, my name is Danielle Williams. I was Buford. I'm back to my maiden name. Danielle Williams. I'm the youngest of 14 children. I myself am a mother of four. I had two sons, two daughters. Um, my four children, I have a son named Sergio Dupree Hunt, which was my third child. He was my first boy. And you know how a mother's love is when you have your first son, and especially have your first son with a guy that you consider that you love and you're head over
Yes.
heels with. I had my son very, very was very excited to have a son. Um, Sergio was my third. Like I said, he was a young boy. He always act a little bit older than he was. He always was a little man. I remember I went through a period I had separated from his dad, and he was 12, and he gonna tell me, "Mom, I'm the man of the house. Mom, you a woman. I'm the man." I said, "Well, the man of the house pay the bills. You gonna pay these bills?" And he was like, "Mom, I'm your son. I didn't ask to be." I said, "But you ain't no man over my house." So I said, "You a man, but you not over this house. You gonna be over your own house one day." But he always just act mature and just carry himself a little bit older than what he was. Sergio was a very vibrant life. When he come in, he was, "Hey, what's up?" He was the life of the party. He was he just when he had a swag about him, what they call swag. He was a very nice looking young man, and he had a swag. He always looked nice, and the ladies loved him. The young ladies loved him and would go crazy over him. He ended up meeting a young lady. Him and her fell in love, and they ended up having, I had from their relationship two grandsons. They would go back and forth having fights, and just it eventually it ended up that she started she got a restraining order on him, and they would go back and forth arguing. He'd be somewhere, she'd go over there, and he'd be somewhere, she'd be somewhere, he'd go over there. And so he was like kind of going back and forth with her. They had eventually got married, and I was telling Sergio, I said, "You think you guys should get married?" I said, "The way you guys are going back and forth, you think, Mama, that's my baby mom. Mom, I love that's mama. I'm gonna be with my kids." And I said, "I know, Sergio." I said, "But you guys already are having major problems like communicating, the jealousy and all of that." I said, "I don't think it's good. I'm a marry her, Mom. I'm a marry her." He ended up marrying her. When he ended up marrying her, I was living in Texas at the time. And when he ended up marrying her, they still were going through their little fights, and she ended up leaving Texas. She left. They had got into disagreement because she thought he was talking to some girl, and she went back to Portland, to the hometown. And when she went back, I told Sergio, I said, I don't think you should go back up there. I think you need to stay here, focus on you, get yourself in church, because I'm a pastor. So I have my church. I was like, you need to get in church and just give yourself to God, Sergio, and let God fix you. And
Oh,
then
y'all
God
gotta
gotta
fix.
put God. Now, Mom, I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna go back. That's my wife. Anyway, when he went back to Portland,
Mm-hmm.
they ended up going through divorce. When they ended up going through, she ended up leaving because she found out he was messing with some girl. She ended up leaving him and filing for divorce. And then she started putting domestic violence reports on him. And I used to tell him, he said, Mom, she be hitting me. I said, I know, but in society, when stuff like that happens, a lot of times they'll automatically go on the woman's side, even though it might be her starting it. But what your best thing for you to do is just to stay away from her and keep
Mm-hmm.
your, I am. But she would call him and say, I got my new man over here. He gonna be the father of your boy. He go running over there to her. And so when he go running over there, when he get over there, she call the police and make a report. And so
Oh.
it was like he was breaking the restraining order when she enticed him to do so.
How
And
old was Sergio at this
at the
time?
time, he was like 20, 25. They had
He
been
was young.
together. They had been together though since he was like 16.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was like 25 at this time, 25.
Still
And
pretty young.
yeah, still young. And she ended up, he said, Mom, she had the police come over there. I said, Sergio, stay away. Mom, she called me and told me that she has some dude over there. I don't want nobody over my boys. Dad was away from us. I don't want to be from my boys. I said, Sergio, I understand that. I said, but stay from over there, because with a no contact order, they gonna get you. They not gonna get
Mm-hmm.
her, and so I couldn't tell him, he just was determined to push and to go to push. And so what it ended up happening is she created a thing for domestic violence. And a lot of times she would be the one, she used to come over my house fighting him and stuff. And he would never call the police on her. So what she did is, to get help that she needed at the time, she created the domestic violence thing with him. And so every time she would text him first, he would respond, and it cost them, they said he was breaking a no contact order.
Yeah.
And I think he ended up having 13 counts of breaking a no contact order.
Oh.
Because every single time she would antagonize him or have her friends call him, he would respond by reaching out to her. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to tell him, don't do that. Anyway, he had 13 breaking the no contact orders. And I think after the first one, it's a felony.
Oh.
And so it ended up landing him going to prison for 2 years. He never, prior to that, never had nothing on his record. He never had been in trouble with the police or anything of the sort. But it ended up landing him to go to prison for 2 years in Washington County. I couldn't believe that they gave him 2 years when it was his wife and, his kids. But, I guess that really don't matter, they said, because a lot of domestic violence things can end in tragedy.
Yes.
And, I, he ended up getting sentenced to 2 years, and they put my son in a level 4 prison. I didn't understand that part either, by him never having a record or anything of the sort, that they would put him in a level 4 prison. Um,
Can you tell us a little bit about the background or what you know about it being a level 4 prison?
well, I found out that it was a level 4 prison because someone that was in there reached out to my family
Mm-hmm.
and said, ain't that Dee Dee's, her son Sergio? What he
Mm-hmm.
do? What is he in here for? He over here where I'm at, and this person had like murdered somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that they got him in a level 4. And I'm like, what that means? So I called the warden when I
Mm-hmm.
found out, and he said, yes, this is a maximum security level 4 prison. I said, well, how
Okay.
come they got my son there?
Mm-hmm.
I said, for breaking a no contact order, uh, being charged with that. And he was like, and I said, my son never ever had a record. He said, well, ma'am, I'm just the warden here. I don't have nothing to do with what goes on in the court. All I know is they sent him here and he's here, you know. And I was like, wow. And I just left it alone. I didn't really dig in it. I wish at the time
Mm-hmm.
that if I had the sense that I would have dug into that more and tried to understand why they had him in a maximum security level 4 prison.
Now, knowing a little bit about your story prior, do you think them putting him in the level 4 had anything to do with him escaping from the police when they first initially tried to
Okay.
capture him?
Yeah, when they were going through the no contact order
Mm-hmm.
things, he took the police on a high speed chase 2 times.
Wow.
One time he was all over the news. I was in Texas, and everybody was saying, "You see the news? Your son on there, he taking them." And I cut the news on, and me and my sister, then we just went in prayer. I just started praying,
Mm-hmm.
God, cover my baby. Please, God, don't let them kill my son. And it was at the time where police were like really killing, our young black men. And I was like, God, just cover my baby. Cover him, God, keep him. And the next morning, after I prayed, he was at my door, knocking at my door. I'm like, what you doing here? And he was like, Mom, they was chasing me, Mom. I ain't even do nothing.
Right.
I have for 2 years. He never, prior to that, never had nothing on his record. He never had been in trouble with the police or anything of the sort. But it ended up landing him to go to prison for 2 years in Washington County. I couldn't believe that they gave him 2 years when it was his wife and, his kids. But, I guess that really don't matter, they said, because a lot of domestic violence things can end in tragedy.
Yes.
And I, he ended up getting sentenced to 2 years, and they put my son in a level 4 prison. I didn't understand that part either, by him never having a record or anything of the sort, that they would put him in a level 4 prison. Um,
Can you tell us a little bit about the background or what you know about it being a level 4 prison?
Well, I found out that it was a level 4 prison because someone that was in there reached out to my family
Mm-hmm.
and said, ain't that Dee Dee's, her son Sergio? What he
Mm-hmm.
do? What is he in here for? He over here where I'm at, and this person had like murdered somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that they got him in a level 4. And I'm like, what that means? So I called the warden when I
Mm-hmm.
found out, and he said, yes, this is a maximum security level 4 prison. I said, well, how
Okay.
come they got my son there?
Mm-hmm.
I said, for breaking a no contact order, uh, being charged with that. And he was like, and I said, my son never ever had a record. He said, well, ma'am, I'm just the warden here. I don't have nothing to do with what goes on in the court. All I know is they sent him here and he's here, you know. And I was like, wow. And I just left it alone. I didn't really dig in it. I wish at the time
Mm-hmm.
that if I had the sense that I would have dug into that more and tried to understand why they had him in a maximum security level 4 prison.
Now, knowing a little bit about your story prior, do you think them putting him in the level 4 had anything to do with him escaping from the police when they first initially tried to
Okay.
capture him.
Yeah, when they were going through the no contact order
Hmm.
things, they he took the police on a high speed chase 2 times.
Wow.
One time he was all over the news. I was in Texas, and everybody was saying, "You see the news? Your son on there, he taking them." And I cut the news on, and me and my sister, and we just went in prayer. I just started praying,
Mm.
God, cover my baby.
Mm.
Please, God, don't let them kill my son. And it was at the time where police were like really killing, our young black men. And I was like, God, just cover my baby. Cover him, God, keep him. And the next morning, after I prayed, he was at my door knocking. I tried to hold him here. He ended up going back to Portland again. When he went back to Portland, here go the same scenario. He ran over to her house. He called the police. When she called the police uh, on him, he took him on another high speed chase. And when he took him on a high speed chase this time, um, they ended up sending robots into my brother's house because they thought the car that he was in my brother's driveway, but it wasn't the car. But they ended up sending like gas bombs,
Wow.
telling Sergio to come out. They bombed my brother's whole house, destroyed my brother's house. They broke all the windows. They kicked the door in. My brother couldn't even live in his house. Everything he had was destroyed by the smoke things that they sent in. And my brother ended up getting, I think, out of that $30,000 because they had destroyed like
Mm.
family heirlooms and everything that he had. And so my son got away again and ended up back in Texas. And I said,
Mhm.
"How did you get away again, Mom? I don't care. I don't want them to kill me. I don't want them to kill me." So he was up here for a couple months, and he
Mhm.
said, "Mom, I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna do what you said, Mom. I'm gonna just give me a job, and I'm gonna just whatever I need to do. I'm gonna do." He was here for a couple of months. So
Mhm.
when he was here, he went to DMV to go get his ID because he was getting a job. And he said, "Mom, I'm gonna go to DMV." I said, "Sergio, do you think you should go to DMV?" He was like, "Well, Mom, yeah, I did. I ain't no criminal like that." When he went to DMV,
Mhm.
the Grand Prairie Police Department surrounded the DMV.
Mhm.
They surrounded my son at gunpoint, and they took him into custody.
Did he not
And
know he was
when
wanted
they
then
took
at that
him in custody,
time? Sorry about that.
he didn't know he didn't think that it was like that. Can you turn that down just a little bit? Well, he didn't think that it was like that. He thought
Mhm.
that the warrant was like, I don't know if he didn't think it was serious like that, but
Mhm.
he was like, "I'm gonna just get my ID, Mom, and I'm just gonna work." And I said, "Sergio, you think you should go to DMV?" And he was like, "Mom, I ain't no criminal like that." I said, "I know, Sergio, but you eluded them people twice." I said, and they're gonna put a warrant out on you, and they had put in the news that he was armed and dangerous. So
Ooh.
they was trying to get the people to kill him if they seen him. So they surrounded him, and they took him into custody. When they took him in custody, they ended up transporting him back to Portland,
Mm.
to Washington County. When he got there, he was going to court and stuff, and he was like, "Mom, it shouldn't be that serious," because he's thinking that it ain't that serious, but it was serious because he had eluded them a couple of times, and they were upset about that. So I believe them putting him in the level 4 prison is that they set my son up to be
Mhm.
sabotaged.
Mhm.
I do believe that.
Mhm. Okay, so tell us what basically when your son went to prison, what happened to him and how was that like while he was in prison?
So when he finally got sent out to the prison,
Mm-hmm.
um, he was calling me like every week, and me and my ex-husband, we kept money on his books, and made sure that, and I was like, are you okay? Because I had a thing that I had, just like, always felt like I didn't want my sons to be statistics. The typical young black male going in and out of jail. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want that for him, or for them. I did not want them to live a life like that. So um, when he was in there, I would talk to him, Sergio, you all right? I said, how is it? Are you? Mom, I'm cool. Mom, I'm good. I got a cool Shelly, Mom. He a real big dude, Mom. He cool though. And I be watching TD Jakes, and he be coming watching with me, and he be reading the word with me. So what the dude was doing was like reeling him in. And so
Mm-hmm.
my son called me and said, Mom, he said, Mom, the other day, he said, Mom, my blood pressure was high. They sent me, I had to go to medical. And I said, you did? And he said, they said I'm supposed to be on some high blood pressure pills. And so he said, Mom, they prescribed me some pills for me to take. And these other pills, Mom, they supposed to give me or whatever. I said, from what? And he said, well, Mom, I guess because sometimes I can't really sleep at night or something. Anyway, they ended up bringing him some meds one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't hear from my son for like about a month. And so I'm like, I said, Chief, ain't that strange? That Sergio ain't called me or nothing. So I ended up calling the prison. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, hey, my son, is he still there? Did they move him? I was trying to see that was he moving, or I said, I haven't heard from my son in
Mm-hmm.
over a month. And so the one of the sheriff guys said, oh, I'm gonna have Warden, I forgot the man's name, Warden, somebody to give you a call. And I said, is my okay, because I'm wondering why when I'm telling him my name and my son's name, he said he gonna have the warden to call me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, what's going on? Is my son okay? Is he alive? What? He said, yeah, he's alive. He said, but I'm just gonna have the warden to call you. And so when the warden called me, he says, oh, hello, Miss Buford. I said, yes. He said, well, Sergio's your son. I said, yes. Oh, well, we got him all patched up. He's good. And I said, patched up? What do you mean? Did he get jumped or something? Well, no, he's good though. He's a lot better. He's doing good. And so when he told me that, me thinking that was the farthest thing from my mind, what happened to my
Mm-hmm.
son, that was like way left field. Like I didn't even think nothing like that. I'm thinking like maybe he must have got in a fight and and
Mm-hmm.
and they jumped him. This is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, he said he'll be in home. We'll have him to contact you. We'll have him get, so like about a week or so after that, they have my son to call me. And so I'm talking to my son. I said, Sergio, are you okay? He said, Mom, I'm okay. And he was just sounding like so down, and down. And I said, what's going on? Why are you sounding like that? You got in a fight or something?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, Mom. No, that ain't, I'm good though, Mom. I'm good. I'm good. And I said, Sergio, I said, would they do something to you? And he said, Mom, I'm good, Mom. I'm good. So
Mm-hmm.
it was about maybe he had another like 6 months to do,
Mm-hmm.
and me and I said, well, just make sure you call me. I said because I'm worried. I said I was so worried. I didn't know, what was going on. I said, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear from you anyway. He ended up getting out, and I went to pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to pick him up, we picked him up and we had to take him to his parole officer's office.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got in the car, And he started talking to me. He said, Mom, he just broke down in
Wow.
tears and just
Mm-hmm.
started crying.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what's wrong, Sergio? You out? Why? He said, Mom, my God, let it happen to me. He just started crying real hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then he proceeded to tell me what happened to him. And he said, Mom, that Sally I was with, Mom. He said, Mom, they went to bring me my meds one day, Mom. He said, all of a sudden, Mom, when after I took the pills, Mom, I started saying, I couldn't see, Mom. And I started feeling real weak, Mom. And he said, the dude grabbed me, Mom. He had them to slip me a Mickey. And when he grabbed me, Mom, he threw me on the bed and put his hand behind my neck, Mom, and pulled my pants down and said, you BA, see if your mother up and God can help you. And he
Wow.
said, Mommy, pray me, Mom. He
Oh my
started
God.
just screaming. Girl, when my son told me that,
Mm.
I just opened the car door and I just fell on the ground.
Ooh,
And
so
I just
sorry.
started crying. And because
Mm.
I felt that I wasn't able to do nothing. I couldn't, you know how we feel with our kids, like
Mm-hmm.
we can protect them and like we
Mm-hmm.
can cover them. I felt so like I was helped, like I couldn't even protect you. And I told him, I said, Sergio, I said, that's why I told you I didn't want you guys
Mm.
to go to prison. I didn't want that for you. You know, and he said, I know, Mom, but why God let it happen to me? And he was just crying
Mm.
so hard. So hard.
Mm. Mm. So sorry. If you need to take a break, let me know.
Yeah,
Okay.
he
You want
was
to pick
crying
back up
so
some other?
hard.
You want to pick back up some
No.
other time, or you?
I'm gonna finish it. But he cried so hard,
Mm.
and ever since then, my son's life was just messed up. He got on drugs, and he never was the same again.
What year was that,
Uh,
Pastor, that he got out?
he got out in like uh, I think it was like 2013, 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And from then until he got hit by a hit and run driver, my son's life just went down. And he wasn't his vibrant self how he used to be. He was hang out on the streets, hanging with the homeless, and he got in that addiction, and he just like he was trying to bury something, like bury something that he wanted to bury it, and he wanted it to go away, but it didn't, it wouldn't, and he just was like, Mom, I would go and buy him like Jordan tennis shoes, clothes. Mom, you want to get this to me, Mom? Mom, oh, Mom, you really, thank you, Mom. Yeah, I don't deserve that.
Mm.
And that used to crush my heart so bad. And I said to him, um, before he had went back to Portland this last time, I said, Sergio, don't go back. I said, son, just stay up here. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, Mom, Nisha lived too far. His sister, Nisha, his sister, she live out here in the boondocks, Mom. In Portland, I know people, Mom. And in Portland, Mom, I got little friends. I said, Sergio, I said, you should just stay here, Sergio. And I said, Sergio, you want a family again? Do you want a relationship again? He said, Mom, I'm cool. I mean, Mom. And so he just, um, when he went back, he was there about 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Within that 4 month period, my grandson, Nigel, um, had got murdered, and he was close with my that's my daughter Nisha's oldest son. and
Mm-hmm.
he had got murdered by his girlfriend's mother. And my son Ezekiel said that when he told him that Nigel had got murdered, he said Sergio just let out a scream. He said, "Mom, it was such a chilling scream." He just said he just screamed and just kept screaming so loud. And and then like prior to that, his son in 2021, his oldest son got murdered by his friends. And so it was just like I believe he had a conversation with the Lord. And I don't know if he was just like, I'm tired, God, this is too much. Son said he screamed so loud. And my son said, Mom. And that was the last time I seen Sergio. And he ended up on my birthday, October the 21st, 2024. He got hit and killed by a hit and run driver. And they said he died instantly on contact. So
So that's about 11 years of using substance to numb that trauma pain
yeah,
that he
yes,
experienced while he was in prison. Are you
yes, yeah.
familiar with the Prison Rape Elimination Act? That was an act that was passed by both sides of the House in 2003. However, it was just disbanded or done away
Uh-huh.
with last year, I believe. So are you
Hmm.
familiar with that? Because it was enacted on the time that your son was in prison and Sergio was.
I was not aware of any of that because I until my brother met you
Mhm.
because you know people I hear talks prison world is the prison, and what happened in prison is just like in Vegas, what happened in there that it stays there, and so I wasn't aware. I had went and talked to his parole officer when he
Mhm.
got out, and we told him what happened.
Oh, so
And
the
all
parole officer knew about it. Knew
yeah,
about
yeah,
it then.
I told him. And he was saying, I don't understand why Sergio is just in this addiction. And I said, you want me to tell you why he's in the addiction?
Mhm.
And I shared it with him.
Mhm.
And he just got quiet and he didn't say anything but I'm sorry, Miss Buford. I'm sorry.
I
I'm
just was
sorry. He said,
wondering if many other family members are not aware that this could be some of the possible reasons why their children are using substance to numb that type of pain, because that's what I was sharing with your brother. Because
hmm
sometimes the family members don't understand what's going on. And a lot of the persons that's coming out of incarceration are not like your son that shared that information with you. They may share it with someone
hmm
else, but they try to keep it amongst themselves because
hmm
a lot of times it's stigma, a lot of embarrassment, and they don't want women that they may date to think that they've participated in that either willingly or unwillingly. So it's a lot of stigma
Right.
and things that goes along with it, and shame and just the trauma of it all. So a lot of times
Yeah.
they're self-medicating, and as we see, it doesn't help
Right.
anything. But I had that now I saw once I was sharing things with your brother where he kept saying, "You got to talk to my sister. You got to talk to my sister." But I didn't realize when he said he had said his nephew had passed, I didn't realize it was so close that it had actually just happened because
Yeah.
I had just met your brother
That's
like late
happened.
October
That's happened.
2024, so it had actually just happened.
Yeah.
So I think that was
Yes.
God's guidance to me to bring us
Right.
together in that instance because something told me to go to that store and just share the
Right.
story when your brother was out there
Yeah.
advocating for the veterans.
Yeah. 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 And it had just
Hmm.
happened when Paul called me because he was like, "Sis, I don't even really want to. I know you don't want to think about it or whatever." And he was sharing with me and for me and you to connect.
Hmm.
Um, I I didn't know. I wish my son would have been living to meet you and be able to, talk and speak out like on that. And my son,
Hmm.
my kids, I always raised my kids to like be able to speak out and to be bold and not to be secretive or sneaky or try. That my kids have always been pretty much straightforward. They can talk to me about anything. And so I'm glad that even when my son got out, because it kind of made me understand his going through with the addiction, it made me understand why, and so uh, I just wish I wanted for my son to
Mm-hmm.
get delivered from the drugs and stuff so that he could love himself again. But what is so extra crazy about everything, when he first met his baby's mom, I
Mm-hmm.
looked at her and the Holy Spirit said to me, she destroy him. And
Oh.
I looked, and when the Spirit of God spoke that in my ear from the beginning, that she sat on my couch, and I kept relationship. She ain't gonna hurt me, Mom. You ain't saying that to Nisha. You ain't. I
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about you. I can't help what the Spirit of God said to me in my ear when I looked at her.
Mm-hmm.
And her destroying was teaming up with the people and it caused my son's life to be destroyed, and I just, I would speak to mothers to tell them, when your kids go to prison, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes these kids don't listen,
Mm-hmm.
they be hard headed and they end up doing things, but keep a communication that's open with your child. Don't be like super judgmental in that point that your kids cannot open up and tell you everything that they've been through. Because sometimes people, they feel like you said, like they're going to friend or they're gonna think weird of me. And my son told me, he told his cousins, my son, he did
Wow.
not keep that hidden. And
Mm-hmm.
that's because that was not a part of his life. He was violated and he felt violated.
Mm.
And it destroyed him. Just what the Lord has spoken in my ear and what
Mm-hmm.
he said to me, that she was on assignment to destroy him. And these young people, if any of them see this, listen. If you listen, if you
Mm-hmm.
pay attention, your parents, God gives. And stuff, we gung ho and we excited, and we just want to do what we want to do and we think we know. But if you listen, God can bend and turn things around in a different
Mm-hmm. Yes.
direction in your life.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the most important thing that I would want young people to know and
Mm-hmm.
parents to know. Keep an open ear. Be available to talk to your kids about anything. Don't, if they want to come and share with you. And I'm telling you, though, some of the stuff that's been shared to me, I've been like, I don't want to hear it because I don't want to hear it as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
But let them be free to come and talk to you and not keep
Mm-hmm.
nothing hidden from you, because people will be hurting and keep stuff hid that will destroy them. And like in my case with my son, that he wouldn't have been out at no 2 in the morning riding on no bike, if he wasn't in no addiction, and
Mm-hmm.
it cost him his life.
Mm-hmm. So I really thank you for sharing your story. I'm so sorry for this great tragedy that's come up on your family. And I really
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your story. Is there anything else you feel you want to add?
Just be available to listen to your children, and when they go to jail and stuff, and a lot of times moms that have sons and stuff that come out, we tell them, get your butt together, you need to do this. And then have you sat down and talked to your child? Have you sat down and loved on them, and really let them know that I'm available, to hear you without judgment, to hear you and to stand with you.
In the description area of this video, you can find links to important information or further readings. Also, in the comment area, can you please do me a favor and send some love to this mother for sharing the story of the tragic loss of her son? The Prison Rape Elimination Act, PREA of 2003, is a federal law, Public Law 108-79, that established a zero-tolerance standard for sexual assault and harassment in all correctional facilities, including prisons, jails, police lockups, and juvenile detention centers. It requires the Department of Justice to develop national standards to prevent, detect, and report inmate sexual abuse, aiming to improve safety and data collection. Although federal funding has been pulled from PREA, the law is still in effect. As you can see, sex can happen in prison whether consensual or not. Here are some articles that show you this does happen. Some institutions have initiated condom availability in prisons and correctional institutions. As a nation, we must also take domestic violence seriously. The National Domestic Violence Hotline languages are English, Spanish, and 200 plus through interpretation service. The hours are 24/7. 1-800-799-7233. Text begin to 88788 when it is safe to do so. Many may seek to ease their pain through synthetic opioid or substance use. Mothers Against Fentanyl in America seeks to bring awareness and engage the community in viable solutions to impact the synthetic opioid crisis.